We have Bruce live in the locker room in Tallahassee celebrating on the field with the Florida State. And I don't know why, like, we were able to run the ball so well in the first half, especially to the left side, and then all of a sudden we started to abandon it. And like I said, there is some inconsistency.
How are they going to approach this game? How are they going to beat this Florida State team?
Well, we're going to break you guys.
Okay, that's it. The show's over.
In the story, we're going to break you guys. Look, and I'm joking, but it's true.
Lord, the climb continues, KB. Oh my God!
I am sweating.
Look at my heart. Look.
You know what? Yeah, I have so much to say. All right, welcome back to Seminole Sideline 365. As always, I am KB, and with me, as always, is the old man. We are back with our NFL draft recap show, just to go through the draft picks, because Florida State had a busy weekend, which is always nice to see. It's been a while. It's been a couple years since we've had a busy weekend like this, and it's a stamp of a successful program. So we'll go through that. We'll give our takes on good fit, bad fit, should they have gone sooner or later, and go through all that. And we want your thoughts. So if you're watching this live, you're watching this late, let us know your thoughts on as we break down the picks. And overall, do you agree with everyone who got picked? Do you think other people who were left off the board, should they have been picked? And we'll go through those people as well. But yeah, we'll have some fun. But before we dive into it, so we can allow some of these people to get in on the live show, we almost didn't have a show tonight because there's a major it's not like an explosion outside my place today, but I think one of the power breakers kind of blew up, and
you probably had a squirrel chewing on the wires, man, and he got fried.
Yeah, the dogs kind of went crazy because it was. And today, of course, is the hottest day we've had so far. It was in the 85, and so
How much of the street did it take down? Did it take down the whole, or just the built?
Yeah, the street lights were still working right outside, but it was like, I think it was just like the residential, like a block or two of the residential. So, but no, I mean, Dominion handled it, and they were.
Well, I remember you sent me. Well, we've been promoting the show, for the last 2 days, and then I get the text from you. Well, there may not be any show because I don't have any power.
Yeah.
Which you obviously got to have, but. Around, what did you send me? Around 4:30, something like that.
It was like 4:00, and then by almost 5, it was back on. So
yeah, I was gonna put out a tweet. It looks like we're gonna cancel, but then you came back pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean they work pretty quickly in this area.
Hey, they damn sure should, because we're paying enough utility bills.
That is definitely true. But they worked hard and they got it back online. So here we are. So yeah, we're gonna have a fun show tonight.
Now wait a minute.
Oh, here we go.
I've got a project too. I've been working on doing some refurbishing. I'm putting a vanity in my bathroom, a new vanity top, right? So I've been waiting for this thing for 5 weeks to come in, this vanity top. So we get it from Home Depot, bring it to the house yesterday. Big boxes in my SUV. That's cool. Everything's good. It looks like it's packaged up well. Open up the box on one of them, and it looks good. I'm doing 2. One looks really good because you want to inspect these things to make sure everything's good. Mm-hmm. So then I opened the next one. Oh, I love the colors. Just jumping at me. The colors look great. And then a look over at the bowl, the sink bowl, right? Yeah. And it looks like, under the plastic, it looks like there's a paper just protecting the sink bowl, right? And then I go through the plastic, and it looks like something's raised. Oh, it's a piece of paper. I can just pull that. It's not the paper. It looks like the bowl, the way they, porcelained it or whatever, is flaking off already. This is brand new from the manufacturer. And it's like, no way. This can't be right. This has to be like a protective film.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I swear to God. Because on the back, because they're supposed to, I remember the lady saying, well, because I wanted all one solid color. He goes, well, they don't make it that way. It only comes in white in the bowl. And I'm going like, what? I said, okay, whatever. But this thing, if you can think of an eggshell, how thin it is, I'm thinking, is this a protective film or it just didn't take? And no, you know, in the old days, they used to have this QC sticker they would put on things with a guy's name or number. You don't see that shit anymore.
No.
And so I filmed everything. I've got video, snapshots. Guess where I'm going to be tomorrow morning? Home Depot. And we're going to have a conversation. So that's kind of how that goes. But I don't get excited anymore. It's like, that's the way it is. They'll deal with it. And I deal a lot with them. And they're pretty good backing me up on stuff. Because, you know, it's their issue. And I'm going to ask them what they want to do with it. You know, what I'd rather do is peel all that shit off and just have the natural. I don't know why they didn't say, I got to find out. So that's been going on this afternoon for me. So back to football.
Well, yeah, let's get back into football, and we got a lot to go into. Obviously, 10 Florida State Seminoles got drafted this past draft weekend or draft week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so it was a busy week, or busy draft event for Florida State, which is
a big event for Florida State, and showing where this program has come, risen from the ashes to some very high rankings, and you know, in all these different statistical levels. I have a couple of those things, but you're right, big weekend.
And you know, and draft results do typically indicate the health of a program. I mean, the more you don't see many teams who are floundering get 5 to 10 people drafted per year, right? And if they are, that just means there's usually a coaching change happening behind that, right? If you're not winning games, you're getting a lot of guys drafted, it just means you don't know how to utilize your talent. And that's kind of what you've kind of seen with the trend with Florida. They've had Anthony Richardson be a first-round draft pick. You know, they had Ricky Parasol get drafted pretty high this last. So if you're having a lot of talent getting, you know, drafted high, but you're not winning ball games, it's either because you have poor coaching. You can recruit well, but you can't coach. But in this case,
you can't develop people.
Yeah, you can't develop people the right way. So in this case, Florida State, you know, like we saw, regular season undefeated, and you get a ton of guys drafted, and a lot of these guys went high. You know, you had 6 people drafted in the top 100, the top 200, which is great. And let's go through them. So obviously,
and wait a minute, KB. This is one stat I pulled out. So the top teams that had drafted, number 1 was Michigan with 13. Now, these are draft numbers. They weren't the unsigned free agents, undrafted free agents. Michigan had 13 players taken off their team. Texas had 11.
Yep.
Texas had 11. Alabama had 10, tied by Florida State at 10, and Washington tied at 10. Oregon and UGA had 8, and Notre Dame had 7. I'm not going to go through the rest of them. The SEC had 25 taken, and the ACC had 15, of which Florida State had 10 of those.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And a big moment for Florida State, they surpassed 300 all-time draft picks for the program. Okay.
And that goes right into your recruiting marketing materials. Is
there you
guys
go.
Drafted 10 over the past year, you know, almost half of the AC conference, you know. So yeah, that, like you just pointed out, that all goes into how you recruit, and it goes into your future recruiting. And NIL is a big part of it. But if you can pay a lot, get a lot of money, but they can't get developed and they can't get to the next level, money's only part of the equation. And just being able to show people that you can send people to the next level where they can make even more money, they can make more guaranteed money. That is the ultimate goal for a lot of these kids. And they know 99% of them aren't going to get there. But if they have a better chance at your school versus some other school, that's going to get them to sign on that dotted line.
Well, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think any program now that is accepting kids who don't want to get to that next level, then they're not very hungry. You know what I mean? They're not hungry to get to the NFL level. But we know every kid's not going to get drafted, and a lot of kids aren't even going to be able to be signed as an undrafted free agent. The numbers are against you, but that doesn't mean it's not your goal. If you're going to play Division I college football, or what I call the NFL minor leagues now, which is totally is what it is, then your goal and your motivation is to get to the next level. And there's guys that just got drafted off this Florida State team that are the epitome of exactly what I just said. That is Jared Verse, and Braden Fisk. These guys came out of nowhere, and they built themselves and were so motivated, they went as very high draft choices, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, and to that point, I was just trying to pull up a bookmark I had over this weekend about those two. Is that Florida State's done a great job, and one of the trends is that Florida State's had an enormous hit rate of finding the right guys from the portal to bring in and develop them and get them to the next level, and that's just the way college football is now. And people can say, "Oh, well, most of your draft picks are transfers." Well, that's how the game's played. That's how the game's played today. Either you're not playing the game well enough, or that's not a criticism anymore. You can't say, "Well, you have transfers."
Well, KB,
get better at it.
Yeah, that's a great point, because look at Clemson. They had 2 people drafted. That's
exactly,
it. And they were late rounds. Shipley went very late, which I was a little surprised. But they had 2 people off their roster, and Dabo is a guy. Oh, I don't do that. I don't play in a portal. Well,
yeah. Well,
we'll find out.
And we've seen the results of that. So, like you said,
exactly.
the tweet I was trying to find that I couldn't find was that Florida State, of the top 50 picks, only, I think, I could be wrong with this, but only 2 of them came from were from non, kind of major Power 5 pro. Like, they were able to find the 2 guys that came from lower tier schools, FCS and Western Michigan. They were able to take. Can you stop eating? I can hear the wrapper, please.
This is great.
Okay,
stop.
Okay, I don't care. Stop. But they were able to take a kid from Albany and to take a kid from Western Michigan and make them into top 2 round draft picks. These weren't guys who were coming from Alabama. They weren't coming from Texas. They weren't 5-star guys who then turned into what they were going to be anyway. But they were able to find those diamonds in the rough and develop them further into top 2 round pick guys. So that is the biggest thing that stood out to me, and was a great point by, I can't find the tweet, but was a big thing. And it just speaks to the hit rate that Florida State has found in the portal. It's not just the obvious guys. Like, we knew Keon Coleman was going to be a great player. When we got him from Michigan State, you knew the ability he had. You knew he was going to probably be a high round pick. But guys like Jared Verse, guys like Braden Fisk, guys like Trey Benson, guys like Johnny Wilson, things like that, guys who needed further development and only had competition, were playing at a lower competition level, or coming off major injuries, or had just potential. You were able to take these guys, develop those guys, and get them drafted at a high level, which is amazing. So let's go through it.
Well, let's give credit too, because the obvious. I think you used the word obvious. The obvious goes, well, Mike Norvell, he brings them all in. He gets them all coached up. There's more to it than just Coach Norvell. Okay, each college at this level, D1, they have an entire scouting and recruiting office. They're playing the portal. They're playing high school. So they're set up much like the NFL scouting offices are. Each pro team has a number of scouts that are out there that are assigned to different areas of the country to follow certain colleges and certain players. I mean, it's sophisticated. So this is a credit to all the off-field people that you never hear about. So the whole system gets applauded, but we can't forget those people in the offices that you don't see or hear about every day.
Absolutely. So let's start in round 1. Jared Verse is the Noles' first pick in the first round, and the only pick in the first round. But I think that's not a huge surprise. Jared Verse, we knew was going to be a first round guy. He came back last year, and I think he would have been a first round pick the year before. His stats weren't as high as they were the year previously, but he came back, helped his team go undefeated. And do more. And I think he maybe would have went a little bit higher, maybe in the top 10 if he would have just went out the year prior. But he came back, did it for Florida State, did it for his team. And I think further developed himself too as a better player along the defensive line. And he goes, I think, it's an interesting situation for himself. The Rams lose Aaron Donald. The Rams kind of pride themselves on having a dominant defensive line. They lose one of their best players in here. The thing about the Rams, though, that's been brought up a couple of times is that they play a 3-4 defense. And that they've already stated, their coaching staff have already stated is that they see him playing in kind of a hybrid defensive edge linebacking role. And then in the Rams defense, like that linebacking role means going back in coverage. And I don't know why you would kind of utilize Jared Verse in a 6'4", 260 frame in cover. Like that seems, people brought up, that's kind of a waste of his utility if that's how you're planning to use him. And I don't know. It just seems like I hope they utilize his strengths the right way. I'm not quite sure if like a 3-4 defense is perfect for him. I just hope they don't try to make him something he's not. And I know he's a freak of an athlete on the edge, and maybe that's how they see him, is that they can use him in a variety of ways based on that build and how quick he is and how much speed he has. I just don't know if they try to drop him back in coverage, if that's going to work out. But I think I think they have a great coaching staff and they'll get the most out of him. I hope they just don't try to make him something he's not at the next level. But because I believe they're going to ask a lot of him early on because of that, the void they have to try to fill. He's not going to be Aaron Donald, but he can become that down the road. But they're going to ask a lot of him early on, I believe. Any thoughts on this?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I wasn't surprised by him being picked in the first round. I think 19th overall. I think 19th overall is a real tribute to the work he has put in, but you have to have the performance and the production and the potential. 3 Ps: performance, production, and potential that they see in Jared Verse. So getting picked at 19th was a little bit higher than I thought he would be. I thought he'd go in the first round, but he went a little bit higher than I thought he would. I think to what you're saying, if they misuse him, then that's on the system. But it hurts the guy. I get that. It would hurt Verse if they misuse him. But he has to, hopefully, they chose him for a reason based on what they've seen and how he would fit. My concerns with Jared the last couple of seasons, and I'm glad he came back. I think that got him to the first round.
No, I disagree with you on that.
Okay, that's okay.
He's a first round before.
Where I think, you think he would have been higher last year?
His stats his first year at Florida State were much better, and
okay.
he was no.
But you know what? As an individual player, I think he's better. I think he's better off. He's developed himself. He's developed his game better. Physically, he's gotten better. Because my concern about Jared is he an every down player where he can hold the edge against superior, what I call the best offensive linemen in the game, okay, and veterans. He's going to be playing against veterans that have played 5, 6, 10, maybe 10 years of pro football. That makes a difference, okay? And he's a little, I think, I'm not sure he's as physical on the end against the run game, and I think he'll be tested on that. But congratulations not only to Jared, but to everybody else we're going to talk about, because it was a big weekend for them, and they worked their asses to get there.
Yep. So the next pick then came in the second round, just 14 picks or so afterwards, which is Keon Coleman. Obviously, I wasn't sure where he was going to land. I knew it was going to be high. I wasn't sure which team, but I think once again, Keon Coleman, and I think he's an interesting guy. You know, his stats weren't gaudy last year, but he made some huge plays, especially in the first half of the season for us. And he's a guy that I think has so much upside to him. Big body, can high point the ball. It can be physical at the point of attack. There was during the evaluation phase of him, he didn't have a great combine in terms of showing off his speed, but we know he plays fast during the game. Sometimes separation wasn't great when you looked at it on film and stuff like that, but he just has the ability to make so many highlight plays and attack the, especially when covered and making those contested catches, which is, I think, the big thing with him. And he has, like I said, he's young and he has that high upside. So for this and for the Bills, I think it makes sense. They don't have, they got rid of, what's his name? Now it's they got rid of their star receiver, who is blanking from my mind right now. But they got rid of, it's going to come to me.
Don't worry, move on.
But they got rid of him, who was disgruntled. He wanted off the team. But you line up Keon Coleman with, with the star QB who they have right now. So
Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen. So it's going to be, once again.
But do you see Keon Coleman as replacing their number one receiver?
No, but he's going to be asked to step up right away because you look at the receiver room. It's him, Curtis Samuel, and those are the biggest names on their receiving roster right now, right? So Keon Coleman is going to be expected once again. Your top 2 round guy, you're going to be expected to come in and contribute right away. And when you look at their roster, it's him, Matt Collins, and Curtis Samuel.
Boy, that's not an all-star lineup of receivers.
No, and Khalil Shakir, you don't have what you typically think as a star receiver because you just got rid of your star receiver.
Now, let's be honest, too. First of all draft choice picks are a reflection of the team, general manager, of their scouting system. And so they want to make sure that they're successful because the fan base expects them to bring in guys that are going to help this team move forward and produce. So if they miss on a guy like Keon Coleman, I mean, that's a reflection of the general manager, player personnel, and so on. So obviously, everybody wants a good fit. Keon Coleman.
And Stephon Diggs was the guy I couldn't blank.
Okay, Diggs. Diggs is like any of the receivers taken off the Florida State roster. The key is separation. Can you get separation at this next level? And a lot of college star receivers have problems with that. Route running and separation. One thing is to run a route. The other thing is to be separated from that defensive back. That's number one. The second thing is when you are there and the ball comes your way, how consistently do you catch it? And if you don't consistently catch it in practice or in the early season, how many practice games they have now? 2 or something like that. They cut way back.
They have 4
what I'm saying is if you're not consistently grabbing the football, guess what? The football quits coming your way and the wide receiver coach starts to question your ability. Okay, so we hope Keon Coleman can lock in and catch the football after he gets separated. He has the ability to do this, but he's got to put all his energy now into football and making this team. Does Keon Coleman get asked to play special teams? I don't think so. And most times, the first, second, and third round guys generally make the team because it looks bad if you cut a second round choice.
No, he's going to make the team regardless of how he plays. But there's no question he's going to make the team. That, like you said, a GM cannot afford to draft a guy.
It'd be embarrassing
without
if he did.
There's no question Keon's going to play he's making the team. But the thing is, there's those little things we saw during the course of last season. He needs to clean up the catches. He did drop some what would think would be easy catches for him. He's got to make the easy catches for himself, and also the separation factor. He did struggle with separation last year on some of his routes. That's why there was a lot of contested catches sometimes because he couldn't always get separation. And now you're going to the next level where guys can blanket you. So it's. Can he get better with that separation factor? Can he run crisper routes? And can he make the tough catches all the time along with the easy catches? Because now, he's going from a great quarterback to another great quarterback in Josh Allen. And Stephon Diggs last year, over the last 4 seasons was the most targeted, had the most receptions in the last 4 seasons in the NFL. So they're trying to replace Stephon Diggs, with a guy like Keon Coleman. So there's going to be a lot of attention on Keon Coleman because they have to find a new target to suck up all these receptions. And so that's why they took a second round pick and used on Keon Coleman because they believe he can be that guy, the guy that had 11 touchdowns last year and was a staple to the Florida State offense. So a lot of pressure is on Keon Coleman. I believe he has the potential to become that guy, but he has to be prepared to take that role because that's what they're giving him.
I think you're exactly right, KB. There is pressure on Coleman as he enters that training camp. He's expected to fill that role. And if he doesn't fill that role, they'll wait till the cuts start coming in other camps to look for high-priced veterans that are being released, and they'll bring guys in. And then his job gets harder, okay? So he needs to come in hard, get his nose in the playbook, understand what's going on, and catch the football. And he should be all right if he does that.
And I think he definitely can do it. But like you said, there's a lot of pressure because he is expected to contribute right away. There's not a lot of development period, especially with Diggs being out there. But luckily he's got a great coaching situation. He's got a great quarterback situation there.
Now, I wonder, and he should be used to cold weather playing at Michigan State.
Yeah,
because when they get in,
he played at Michigan State.
I understand that. So it shouldn't be an issue for him. And it looks like he's already kind of a sweetheart as a rookie with the press there. He's, he's having a good time with them already.
He does great interviews.
So best of luck to Keon Coleman. And he's worked hard, so good luck.
Yeah, and I think it's not apples to apples, but I think it's a situation where can he avoid the situation that like Kelvin Benjamin fell into, where he was highly drafted and just couldn't keep the focus. He had a big season I think early on, but like that lack of focus and kind of training. And like I said, I don't want to compare the two because I don't want to throw that. But like you said, highly drafted. This is the first highly drafted receiver we've had in a while, right? So I want Keon Coleman to take that opportunity and run with it and not kind of fall into the same trap that like Kelvin Benjamin did.
Yeah, Coleman is the highest drafted FSU receiver since Benjamin was selected the 28th pick in 2014.
Yeah.
And another guy that really blew my mind when it happened is Peter Warwick. He was not in the league long, and I was shocked when basically he fell out of interest in the league. The NFL, as we all know, stands for not for long. And if you're fumbling the football or you can't catch passes, if you're a ball guy, you're not going to be around.
Yep. All right. Next one is Braden Fisk. He obviously in the second round gets to reunite with Jared Verse. And if you were able to watch any of the press conferences, there was some cool moments.
Great videos out there on X as well.
And Jared Verse, got to run up to the room and hop on the phone with Braden Fisk. So I think that's really cool that they get to reunite there. And I think it's a testament to the hard work that Braden Fisk has put in to, take the chance, hit the portal, get recruited to Florida State, develop himself, and really showcase his talents. There was a cool little short video documentary on him too about how he had this board up, I think in his dorm room, and it had all his goals. He written up like all ACC, this record, this stat that he wanted to achieve during the season. Basically, there were 7 games into the season. Wake Forest game, he was talking to Odell, and he was like, I haven't done anything. I haven't hit any of my goals yet. And Odell's like, who cares? Just go out there and have fun. Just do what you do. And so he's like, he erased all of those goals and just started playing football again and not worrying about, not stressing about everything.
Just have fun. Go out and play the game hard, work your ass off and play the game.
And then during that Wake Forest game, when everybody was, there was a lot of guys missing, I think we were missing, but everything turned on. And then and then things kind of started clicking. And then obviously the ACC title game, he lit the world on fire and has a huge game and really kind of shines, in that last game. But all season long, the motor's there. And as the article says here, best athlete at the defensive tackle spot. He obviously, once again, you can't replace Aaron Donald in what he is an all-pro guy. But in terms of, what you're going to get with Braden Fisk. What you see on tape is what you get. High motor, if he gets his hands on you, you're not, he can throw you aside, and he's an unbelievable athlete. And I think it's a great story. 6'5", 300 pounds, all muscle. Is the only thing with him is that he's just an older prospect, and like you said, we know he has those short, like muscular arms. He's not a long, tall athlete or like a long athlete with long arms. So they can get into you, but I think it's another great fit for him. They're trying to replace an impact of Aaron Donald with two stellar athletes from that great defensive line that Florida State had last year, and I think this is. I like this bit. CBS grades this as kind of a steep price to pay for it. But I think the addition of Braden Fisk inside with Jared Verse could be a dynamic duo. If, like you said, if they're going to rotate guys again. And once again, it'll be interesting how St. Louis does decide to play, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk on that line.
You mean Los Angeles?
Exactly, Los Angeles. Sorry. It'll be interesting to see how they play Braden Fisk and how they play Jared Verse in their 3-4 defense, and how many snaps these guys get, how they rotate these guys along with their existing roster of guys. Because you're not going to take one player and replace an All-Pro, but these guys have enough talent where they can make. They can make some impact plays throughout the first season, I believe. So I like this. I think it's, especially for a team that wants to be dominant on defensive line. They saw these guys. They saw their tape. And I think they made some great selections. So I think it's a great fit for Braden Fisk.
Yeah, it's interesting that the Rams take two Florida State guys, first, second round guys. They're defensive players. Obviously, probably it's easy to say the best two defensive players on the Florida State team. Okay, I would say they're probably the top two defensive players on last year's Florida State team. That's my opinion. Braden Fisk, as you said, unbelievable motor, unbelievably motivated. Yeah. And this guy, whether he is an NFL All-Star or gets cut, he's going to give you 100%, 110%. He's just a monster for us last year. Without him, we don't win 13 games for sure. So Braden Fisk, congratulations to him. And I'm a little concerned about all the mentions, even what we're talking about. Aaron Donald. He is not going to replace an Aaron Donald. He is not an Aaron Donald. He will never be an Aaron Donald, likely. Now, I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's not so fair
what
to
I'm
say.
trying. No, wait.
You're one.
Okay, what I'm saying is, he shouldn't have that pressure on his shoulders. But the fan base and the coaching staff of the Rams is putting a lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of pressure put on first, second round choices on the defensive line to kind of bring in that production that will be lost. So hopefully they'll bring these guys along well and give them an opportunity. It's not going to be perfect, but we certainly wish the best for Braden Fisk and Jared Verse.
Yep, and once again, Braden Fisk is going to give the opportunity to play on that defense line, which I think should be very exciting for him. Especially for a guy that 2 years ago was playing at Western Michigan, and now he's going to have the opportunity to start on that defensive line.
And give a shout out to Odell Haggins.
Yep.
Off Odell's line. So there you go, and Jared Verse as well. So very good,
guys.
Very good.
Two guys in the first
and the defensive end, who's that? John Pinocho? How do you pronounce his name?
Pachuas?
Yeah, Pachuas. John Pachuas. Shout outs to these coaches.
Yep. Great work by them.
And they put it on their resumes as well.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
That's how it works.
And then we stay in the second round. Ronaldo Green gets selected by the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, they had coming off a fantastic season for them and a Super Bowl run. Ronaldo Green, he once again is coming off a fantastic season for himself, where he really led in pass breakups with the ACC. And just was a lockdown guy for this defense. Once again, this is a defensive backfield for Florida State that just really shined and made money for themselves with the way that they played. This entire defense last year, we've said it over and over, just kind of was able to lock down, especially at the end of the season when the quarterbacks just all went down and they had to step up. And so these guys made money for themselves this season, and it's great that it's paid off for them, and they're getting selected so high. I think really, the only thing that was against really Ronaldo Green was this size. He's a small kind of athlete. He's not super tall, and in the NFL
But the NFL legend Darryl Green was a small athlete coming out of Texas A&I back in my day. A lot of the viewers wouldn't even remember Darryl Green. This guy was a midget almost, and he was an all NFL Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. And so, but yeah, the modern day NFL tends to like those bigger guys, 6'2", kind of cornerbacks. He's under, he's 6 foot, smaller type of guy. But Ronaldo Green was locked down last year, and you see it in the highlight tape. Ronaldo Green, they weren't afraid to put him on an island or put him one-on-one and show off his man-to-man coverage. With Adam Fuller would put him on some guy, and he,
well,
like
how
the
about
stats show.
Neighbors of LSU?
Exactly.
He locked down Neighbors, who was drafted first round.
Yeah, and that once again, you talk about money games. That was a money game for Ronaldo Green, right? That showcased that Malik Neighbors, who was, like you said, drafted so high, he was able to shut him down. You don't think the scouts, for San Francisco were like, oh, who's this kid? Like, well, this is why we should draft this guy, right? We can do something with that. So, congrats to him. This is great for him, and a well-deserved, I think. Once again, it shows that, and Ronaldo Green was in this program for a while. This is one of those guys that I think he was a Willie Taggart recruit, if I'm not mistaken. I think he came in 2019.
Ronaldo Green's had 32 starts for this Florida State team.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
32 starts.
He came in 2019, I believe.
And he appeared in 53 games. So he had to come in with Willie probably.
Didn't transfer, stuck with the program.
Right.
One of those guys, who really developed as a player and put in the time. So congrats to him. And once again, I don't think he will be in a position where he has to necessarily start right away. He'll rotate with that defensive backfield, but I think it's a perfect situation for him too.
Yeah, let me ask you, do you think he would? Did you really believe he'd be drafted in the second round? I did not. I did not, because I questioned his size and his speed a little bit, but I can't question his physicality because he stayed in 53 games. He doesn't get a lot of injuries that keeps him out of play. I think that's looked at. But I never thought he'd go second round, 64th overall.
No, I think that high surprised me too, because the size and kind of lacking some of that elite speed. But the stats, once again, a guy that can blanket you, was basically a blanket for college, some of the elite college receivers like Neighbors. Once again, they see that and they say, well, we can work with that, right? Whether it's in certain scenarios, defensive schemes, or certain plays, and if he's not an every down guy, we can work with that, right? And so San Francisco may see him as a guy, a gadget guy that they can throw in and lock certain guys down.
He could play nickel for them as well if he starts out that way, take some of the pressure off, and he's not afraid to go up and hit people. He had some games where he had a lot of tackles, and obviously defensive coaches want to see cornerbacks that can make tackles,
or be a premium rotational guy. Like premium depth is a key thing in the NFL because guys get banged up a ton. So having that experience and having the ability to make plays and be able to blanket guys, I think, like you said, I think they see a lot of experienced upside with him in that role. So I think he went higher than I thought, but I think it's well deserved. He showcased what he can do last year, and it was a money year for him, so well deserved.
Great. Congratulations for Ronaldo Green.
Yeah.
All right.
And third round, so we go to Trey Benson. Trey was a guy, once again, Florida State. When we first got Trey from Oregon, I wasn't sure what to expect coming off those devastating leg injuries.
Could have been it could have been the end of it.
Yeah. And Mike Norvell and the staff, said, we want him, we'll take him. And he made the decision to go cross country, come to Florida State. I remember that spring game. He did shy. I thought it was a spring game where I'm like, this kid does have something. And then 2 years later, here we are. And third round. He showcased himself at the combine a little bit, and he showcased himself during the season. Obviously, I think he got better this second year. I thought he got faster. I didn't always think he was the most decisive in the hole, but I think this last year he got faster, and we knew he has the ability to break tackles. That he led in that. For statistically, we knew he was breaking tackles left and right. But I think this year he really was able to showcase his breakaway speed in the open field, especially. He runs high. That was the only thing. He runs kind of high. He's not a low runner. But his breakaway speed was the thing that stood out to me this year specifically. And he's not afraid of contact at all. The injury is well behind him, and his size. He's a big dude, right? He's not afraid of contact, and that's what the NFL, I do believe. And that's the thing. The running back role in the NFL is changing. They take these guys for 3 or 4 years, and they look for the next one. But they want guys who aren't afraid to kind of get dirty and run through the hole and then bounce outside. So he's a guy that can do it all in my eyes, and he has great hands. We didn't use his hands a ton, but when we did, he was able to make tough catches out of the backfield. A couple of games where some of them were like back shoulder throws on the sidelines. Forget the game what it was. I think he's a special kid, and I think once again, Arizona is looking for a new running back or something to shake up their running back committee there. I think it's a great fit for him in that offense, and so well deserved. I think he potentially could have even went a little bit higher, but I think third round's a great selection for him.
Yeah, I think Trey went a little bit higher than I thought he would. 66 to overall in the third round. What can we say? He's a guy I'm going to remember. I've seen a lot of running backs at Florida State. Okay, and Florida State's had a lot of good running backs, but he's a kid I'm going to remember because he came into the program that was emerging from the ashes. The offensive line wasn't elite, still not elite line. Mm-hmm. And he put down a lot of production. And I think that's in his favor. I think the NFL scouts saw that. And I liked your comment, which I was going to make. He's learned to catch the ball out of the backfield. I think last year he had like 20 catches for 200 and some yards. And that shows his ability because NFL running backs need to have the ability to catch the football out of the backfield. So congratulations to Trey Benson. He's had a long journey, and now it's going to pay off, and best of luck.
Absolutely. And I think, he's in a good position there because they still have James Conner, I believe, who's kind of a veteran at this point. Sometimes. So I think he'll be in that, 2-3 role, and right. He'll have the opportunity to, kind of, and like I said, the running back role in the NFL is kind of in flux right now. They like to use multiple guys, and as a lot of teams especially like to use multiple guys. And I think he'll be right in the rotation, and if he works hard, he'll be right in that rotation, especially with his hands. I think he's got a leg up there to especially be in that number 2.
Now let's also be honest about this. Some of these guys are going to be asked and have to play special teams. And some of them may not be used to that. And because they have to do that, they can also make an imprint by good special teams play if they're asked to do that. It could be the difference for some of these guys to make the team or not make it.
Yeah, absolutely. Next pick in the third round, once again, a lot of picks in the top 100 here, as we talked about. So Jerrion Jones, once again, another stalwart that defensive backfield, goes to the Jaguars, and Jaguars trying to build up that defense. And Jerrion Jones was one of those guys who was a stalwart in that defensive backfield. He made some big blow up tackles from the safety position, was able to accelerate upfield pretty quickly. Really, once again, kind of the opposite of what we were talking about before with Leonardo. I think he has better acceleration as a defensive back. Same type of size at kind of 6 foot. But really improved over the years. He's a transfer. He came from Mississippi State, I believe.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. Freshman season at Mississippi State.
Yeah, and he's really developed as a great player. Once again, from when he came in from Mississippi State, where we thought, hey, he could be a rotational player, to this season, where once again he was another guy that you could count on to do his job, do it effectively, and once again made a ton of money for himself by going as a top 3 round pick. And I think the biggest thing for him is that he sees plays, he identifies plays, and he makes them quickly. The thing against him, and that's been pointed out numerous times, is that he did struggle sometimes with missed tackles in the open field, and the ability sometimes of being a little bit heavy-footed on the routes that he's covering. So now maybe he got picked a little bit early. Could he have gone the fourth round? Maybe. But if a team likes a guy and Jacksonville likes a guy, and I think from a marketing standpoint, this is great. I'm sure they'll be able to sell a good amount of Jerry Jones jerseys in Jacksonville. I like it, and I'll never be against a Florida State guy going earlier than later. So I think once again, this is a great position for him because I don't think he'll be forced to be pushed into a starting role. I think if he works his butt off, he'll easily work on a rotational role in camp
and special teams. And once again, I think from the Jacksonville marketing standpoint, I think they'll be able to sell a good amount of merchandise in the Jacksonville, Florida area for Jarian. So I like this. I like this pick for him. But could he have gotten the fourth round? Probably. But I think this is I like the pickup for Jarian. Get that money.
Yeah, I was a little surprised he went this high, 96th overall, third round. But I do think that Jarian's probably a hard worker. He's an overachiever. He's not the type of guy's name I'm going to remember as one of the greatest defensive backs ever at Florida State. Mm-hmm. That's no disrespect to him. I think it's a lot of respect by the NFL scouting system to place him this high. So I think that's sending him a message. We believe you can make it in this league. We need good defensive backs, ones that work hard, willing to come up and make tackles and stay healthy. And he's done that pretty well. So I think they got Jacksonville Jaguars got a good pick here, and I think he's done well for himself. So best of luck to Jerry Jones.
Yeah, and I the point you just said I think is different because this defense, especially in the defensive backfield, we had a lot of guys that did their jobs very well. It wasn't like we had a Jalen Ramsey and a Derwin James and
Deion Sanders.
Yeah, we just this team had a bunch of guys who just played very well together and did their job extremely well, and it worked. It wasn't like you had one guy or two guys who were just making plays all over the field. This group played well as a unit, and I think that made them all look good. And that's not saying they were bad solo, but that just means they communicated well, did their jobs well, and they all look good together.
Yeah, let's say this too. It's always helpful to a defensive back and safety when you have a very effective defensive line and absolutely. Rush edges that can really put pressure on quarterbacks. They complement each other. And so that's very important because defensive backs can only follow and follow receivers for so long.
Absolutely. And that's a great point. And good stuff, Jerry. And we wish you the best of luck in Jacksonville. And it's glad that you don't have to move too far out of the state. You can, you're close
exactly.
by.
And as Dagby says, welcome to the show, Dagby. Wanting to do special teams duty can be a boost. Absolutely. You got to be willing and you got to be motivated to do that because you got to be motivated to make the roster. There's cuts down to you have is it 54 men now? I can't remember. 54 men, and then they have the practice squad, and it's tough. It's a tough numbers game.
In August, it's 53 players. That's a final cut line.
Yeah, when you come into camp, this older guys knowing that you're there to take their job, and that's how the NFL goes. It's a grind. It's a grind-up machine.
And then we get to the fifth round. So once again, that is how many players? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 players in the top 100, which I think is amazing. That's a real big accomplishment.
Oh yeah,
6 players drafted in the top 100.
Big.
And then we get to the fifth round, and we get Jordan-Travis, which, I think this is incredible for the fact that you have a guy that is coming off a major injury to get drafted this high. And it's sad because I think if he hadn't had that major injury, we could be talking fourth or third round for him based on all the quarterbacks that came off the board. But I think this is a big kudos to him and the work he's put in the offseason to get back, to be able to start throwing again, the interviews he did.
And I don't think his rehab is even complete yet.
No. The Jets coaches said they hope to accept him back in fall camp. But he's still working his way
He'll
back.
be there. He'll be
Yeah.
there even if he's walking around. You're not going to miss any camps that you're invited to, rehab or not. That rehab will continue. He ain't going to miss having his face there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this 5th round pick is a big kudos to him, but what could have been is always something that you'll look back on. But 5th round is great for him. I think this is a decent situation for him to the Jets. The Jets, you could look at both ways. Do you trust the coaching staff? Do you trust them in terms of development? But in terms of the quarterback room, I think it's a good fit in terms of that respect. He's not expected to necessarily be the backup or the starter. Obviously, they have Aaron Rodgers. They also have Tyrod Taylor, which I think is 2 veterans that he can immediately start learning from this season. This first season is just get back to healthy and develop. Learn from those guys, make the roster, learn from those guys, right? Make the cut line, and then learn from those guys. Soak up everything that these 2 veteran guys can give you. Be on Aaron Rodgers' pocket, Tyrod Taylor's pocket. Tyrod Taylor's a guy that has stuck around this league by being the veteran guy that just
Virginia Tech Hokie, man. Virginia Tech.
Yeah, who can go to any team and give them confidence that if they need him, he can win them a ball game or come close to it. So those 2 guys, I would just give, especially Tyrod Taylor, I would be on his pocket probably more so than Aaron Rodgers, just to say
because his style of play is like Jordan's. Tyrod used to run a lot more. I think he slowed down a little bit
but I think
he used to run a lot.
Yeah, and I think I would go more towards Tyrod because, I think that is the path towards staying in the league further for Jordan Travis. I think Jordan Travis is going to have to take that route in terms of he's going to have to be a backup that earns that, is going to have to, that's his path forward, right? He's going to have to earn that backup job, whether it be the Jets, somewhere else. And then when he's called upon, whether it be an injury or he wins it out, that he's going to have to earn it by being the backup that someone trusts. And then when it's his time, that he'll get that opportunity. But Tyrod knows what it takes to do that. And so soak it up from Tyrod and get the ins and outs of the league, what you got to do, where you need to be, who you need to know, and soak it up. So I think from that perspective, it's great. But now that you're 3rd on that roster, you need to box that out. So Jordan, do what you have to do to earn that 3rd spot. Because some teams won't keep three quarterbacks. Some will, depending on what the room looks like. Because they may only keep 2 during the season, and then jump you to the practice roster and then sign you as you need to. So it'll be interesting how this shakes out if they will roster 3 quarterbacks during the season. But I hope for Jordan Travis that they do so that he can learn in his first season. And I don't know if they would have wasted this pick in the 5th round if they didn't believe in him and want him on this roster. Because I think they see the upside in having a veteran presence and a leader like Jordan in the locker room. So I do like this. And I like that they saw enough in him to draft him like this.
I think that I'm not going to go through all his accolades. We've said that 100 times. Yeah. He will always be known as the quarterback who brought this program on his back with the development of the coaching staff to bring Florida State forward out of the ashes, okay? He will always be remembered that way, okay? And he should be remembered that way because he was under a lot of pressure. He had to do a lot of work on his own. And then his journey with the injury is just unbelievable. But everybody has a journey in life. And there's reasons why things happen. But he went in here in the 5th round. I thought he'd go undrafted, to be honest, because I knew his rehab is not fully complete. I thought he would not get drafted. I thought he'd have to sign as an undrafted free agent. So that's a bad thought on my part, but never questioned who he is, never questioned his ability or his ability to work hard or produce. Great pick for Jordan. I bet you he was surprised a little bit. I bet you if you asked him, he was surprised a little bit. But I think they have a plan for him, and they're going to bring him along slowly unless they get forced into have to bring him along faster, and I hope that doesn't happen. Now, they traded away, who was it, Zach Wilson
to
they got rid Denver. Of so that opened up that slot to bring him in. And they'll probably have an undrafted free agent quarterback in camp as well. I haven't read that yet.
but I assume they will, because some of these undrafted free agents are used as cannon fodder in some of these early practice games a little bit, because they're not going to put old Aaron Rodgers out there a lot. So congratulations to Jordan Travis. Big weekend for him and well-deserved, and it's great to see.
Absolutely. And then we move to the 6th round where we get Johnny Wilson. And I think, this is interesting.
One question from a dag. How long do you think the Jets keep Jordan Travis? If you go by the history of the Jets and quarterbacks, if you just went by that history, probably not long. They go through quarterbacks like we go through toilet paper. I hope Jordan gets his opportunity and has an impact, as KB said earlier.
I just with the Jets, I don't know how many quarterbacks that they'll carry into the regular season. I think they'll practice squad him. Probably if he makes us, if he makes the 54-man,
he may not play a lot in camp. He may not.
It depends how healthy he is. That's the thing.
Right.
If he's healthy, he really has to be healthy for fall camp to compete, so that they can choose and I don't know the contract structure with Tyrod Taylor, stuff like that. But they may practice squad him for the first season. I think the biggest thing for him is to be able to learn from somebody. But I don't know if they're not going to carry Aaron Rodgers, Tyrod Taylor in him on the active roster. So I think most likely it's going to be him or Tyrod battling for that second spot. As whoever the coaching staff thinks they're most confident in. So.
No, they're going to keep. I don't think that's even a question. Tyrod Taylor is going to be the backup quarterback.
But I don't know why you drafted Jordan. I don't know why you draft a kid if you're not going to.
I think for the future, because Aaron Rodgers is going to play 1 to 2 seasons, and that's going to be it.
But if you practice squad him, then you don't have the rights.
I don't know.
Sign him.
No, I didn't. I don't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe you know that. I don't know that.
Well, if you practice,
you can just sign a guy off the practice squad. If he's on the Jets practice squad, another team can just come in and scoop him up.
Yes,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that if you practice, I believe they can I believe they can buy those rights if you practice on them.
If someone's listening out there and you know that about the practice squad, let us know.
There may be rules for rookies though on practice squads. That may be the difference. I think it's veteran rules versus.
Congratulations to Jordan Travis.
Either way, great pickup for them.
Impact. Big impact at Florida State. He'll always be remembered.
But then we get to Johnny Wilson, which, if we were talking a year ago about the draft, he was projected, I think, in the top 3 rounds. And then we come into this season and, I think people saw some of the same issues that we saw the year before, which is the inconsistency as him. I mean, he's a freak specimen of an athlete in terms of 6'7", 235, humongous hands, has great speed for his size, has great kind of balance for his body size, kind of reminds you of a little bit of the guy from Tampa Bay. What's his name? What's the receiver?
I know. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. You live there. Why do you not remember his name? I mean, he's like your typical, like a great hybrid of receiver and tight end. And I think, this does surprise me a little bit, but I think, a 6th round just speaks to what scouts saw on tape. Is that's what we all talked about during the season. Is that catch? He's not an elite, he's not a speedster at his size. He's got the inconsistencies. He drops too many balls when it's during the course of the season.
That's his tag. That's his tag.
And and he doesn't dominate the contested catches, especially in traffic. So that's what led him to drop. And it's sad because if he would have cleaned that, and I think it's all a mental thing. He's got ginormous hands. There's no reason why these ballers should be. It's not like he's a 6'7" athlete with baby hands. He's got ginormous hands. So I think it's literally a mental like yips kind of thing where it's just like something just breaks down at that point because you'll watch the same games and in that same game he'll make this unbelievable catch, like catching it off the ground almost. And you're like, how did you just do that when you just dropped something that was so simple?
Dagby, thanks. Mike Evans in Tampa Bay.
That's it. Exactly. And he reminds me of that sometimes where he just can make these great catches down the sideline. He's big and just like that. But so sadly he drops down to the 6th round when I think easily, if he would have cleaned things up this past season, he could have been a top 2 or 3 round guy. But I think for the Eagles, this is a steal for them. You get a freak athlete like this in the 6th round. This could be an absolute steal 2 years from now. I could see Johnny Wilson becoming, a 600 to 800 yard receiver in the next 2 years, 100%.
But how does Johnny Wilson make it and Kelvin Benjamin didn't? You know what I mean? They're
I think it's two different. No, they're not.
You don't think so?
No, I think
they're both big frame guys. They don't have elite speed. They can jump up in the red zone where they wanted these guys to highlight a ball. I'm just saying, and Benjamin didn't make it. You're thinking Wilson could make it.
But Kelvin Benjamin did have good seasons. It was the focus that was his issue.
Yeah.
Kelvin Benjamin, his first year in Carolina, had 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Are you saying his focus? You're saying he had personal off the field issues?
That's what he got overweight. He got overweight. He didn't control. He just didn't have the focus.
Okay.
His first 2 years, Kelvin Benjamin had
he set it up.
and 16 touchdowns. Yeah. So it wasn't about talent with Kelvin Benjamin. It was about off-field stuff. He couldn't keep it together. And I don't think that's an issue with Johnny Wilson. He was never an off-field issue. He was never, it was never an issue with him.
Mark Dorfman brings up, and welcome Michelle, Mark Philly. He's a Harold Carmichael. I don't know, KB, if you remember Harold Carmichael or not. Harold Carmichael was a legend in Philly, kind of a big, tall, physical receiver, and just lit it up there. And I think they're making some comparisons to Wilson, but I think Harold Carmichael had far more consistent hands. Johnny Wilson is going to have to make an impact early in rookie camp and all his camps that I can catch the football in all types of situations. And if he fails to do that, he's probably not going to make this football team, and the fans are going to say 6th round, nobody cares. Okay, so that's kind of where he's at. He's really going to have to come in and prove himself because there's going to be other receivers there as well, despite his freaky physical appearance.
And there already is. They already have A.J. Brown, who's a star receiver who they just signed to a big contract.
Right.
And they have Devontae Smith, who's a young star receiver on that team.
Devontae Smith, yeah.
So this is a really good team with a really good coaching staff with really good receivers, and they have a really good quarterback.
But Devontae Smith is not a physical specimen like Wilson is.
Devontae
Smith is
AJ
kind
Brown.
Devontae Smith is kind of a slender, very sleek, very fast, runs great routes, gets good separation. Can Johnny Wilson make that adjustment? I'm kind of wondering mentally, like you said, can he make the adjustment? Because if he drops a couple balls, even in rookie camp, can he, like a golfer, move on past that and then make some great catches to make that impact on the coaching staff? They're going to be watching him very carefully because the pros don't fool around.
Preseason football, I think, will be big for him.
Yes.
Actually, preseason football will be the determining moment.
He'll get a lot of reps.
Yeah, and will he be able to showcase it there? And I think too, and I think it'll be interesting. Do they try to use him in a tight end receiver type hybrid role? They have Dallas Goedert, but can they use him in a split tight end role where they have 2 tight ends on the field and they make a matchup nightmare for defense?
The Philly press asked that of the coaching staff. I saw a short video and they said no, that's not the plan moving forward.
Plans change, and maybe they don't want to show their hand, and maybe they don't want to show their hand. So it'll be interesting. And Kellen Moore is, a former guy from Boise State, and they used to do some crazy stuff on their offense, and he's the offensive coordinator now, with the Eagles. So I'm assuming they'll get creative with how they use a weapon like that. But it'll be interesting. I just hope he makes it through the camp and he makes it to preseason football because I think that's where he has the chance to showcase what he has.
Yeah.
Then we get to Jaheim Bell. Joins the new Patriots team. No Belichick anymore. But he joins them. He joins them late in the 7th round.
At a good time.
Yeah. And
a rebuild.
Exactly. And I think this is, I don't think this is once again, I think this is a huge value pickup. I think Jaheim Bell has the opportunity once again, kind of like Johnny Wilson. I don't think, how should I say this? I don't think Jaheim Bell did himself any favors this past season. He didn't get a ton of touches. It was tough. There was a lot of good players on the team last year. It's hard to share that ball with everybody. And so, but I think Jaheim Bell at his size, he once again, he's kind of a freak athlete in terms of how I view a tight end. But he's kind of he's kind of a tweener in terms of that H-back role and what he can do. He doesn't have the most explosive. He's not your next Travis Kelce in my eyes. He didn't have a huge route tree in terms of these long routes and everything he did. They didn't use him that way at Florida State. But he takes contact. He can get physical with guys. He does have some great like fast cutting skills. And he has nice hands. He has soft hands for a tight end. And I think those things can make him into kind of a Swiss Army knife type of player where you could use him in a tight end receiver type.
What about his blocking? Is he a Gronk? Can he block like Gronk used to do?
Yes, he can.
You think he can?
He wouldn't have been on the field at Florida State if he couldn't.
Okay.
I mean, Mike Norvell won't play you if you don't block.
I don't see.
Florida State receivers did a great job of blocking down the
Right.
field, and I think once again, you will not make it at Florida State if you don't block on the field, and I don't think they would have drafted him if they had concerns about that. And I think his upside is better than his downside, and I think that's why they decided to draft him versus letting him become an undrafted free agent, because I think they're like, let's take this pick on him so that no one else can pick him up first. Because I think they see more upside than downside with a guy like that.
I think they see him that he can produce yardage for them after the catch, that he can catch the ball pretty consistently.
Yeah.
He can then get it downfield. I think they'll take that over, even if he has some blocking flaws. They'll work with him on that. That's the tight end coach's job there in New England. I think they got a good pickup, especially the 231st player taken in the 7th round. I agree with you.
And for them, with the Patriots, once again, new coach, with Gerard Mayo, he's looking to redo some things. They have a young kind of receiver room, Kedrick Bourne, Demario Douglas.
And they're going to have a new quarterback.
New quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. So there's a lot of new things going on there. Their tight end room is pretty set. You have Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper. So if he's going directly for that, that's going to be tough to win a role with a tight end, just directly as a tight end. So it'll be interesting what they see for him, or if it's just a way to kind of secure his rights for a little bit. But I think he has more. It will be interesting. Do they see him as an H-back type role or a hybrid? It'll be interesting because that tight end room is pretty jacked. It's pretty congested right now. But that receiver room is pretty young and pretty, I wouldn't say dominant right now. So it could be interesting how they imagine him within this offense and see where they play him. Once again, I hope he can make it to the preseason games because they would be interesting to see how.
He'll make it to the preseason games.
Well, I don't know. As a set, you never know. But it would be cool because I think he could show some plays, and that will be where he can showcase himself, not only for the Patriots but for other teams around the league who may need some help in other areas.
Well, that's true.
And
let's remember, if a guy gets cut from one team, other teams are looking at these guys, or they had him on their draft boards. Exactly. They go, oh, he's been released. He's out here in open space. Let's go and get him, see what we can do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last pick for Florida State in the 7th round, which I'm excited to see, and he had a great reaction to this with Tatum Bethune.
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier for this kid. One of my favorite players from last year. Just a guy who always seemed to make the right play in his position. Former transfer UCF. Came to Florida State, and I think was one of the first building blocks for that defense in the rebuild. Former third-team All-ACC, led last year with 70 tackles. Wasn't the most, the biggest or wasn't the most elite linebacker Florida State has ever had, but he just, he kind of just felt like the captain of that linebacker room, along with Kalen DeLoach. Those guys just complemented each other and just seemed to, he was a big hitter. Always seemed to be in that hole at the right time, had great quickness. He was a little bit undersized for what Florida State's looking to do at that role, but he was
all our linebackers were kind of undersized.
yeah. But for what we needed to do and make that defense run, he got the job done for the most part when it needed to get done. And so I'm so happy to see him and to see the work that he put in get paid off at the draft selection. Especially once again with San Francisco, who likes to build strong defenses and has a pedigree for having strong defenses, with Bosa there and all the weapons they have around, you saw in the Super Bowl that all the weapons they have on that defensive end. So I'm happy for him. This guy doesn't hesitate when he sees a defensive player. He will lay the boom on you. I don't know. Once again, they have a lot of stars on that team. They have a lot of guys on that roster. You saw they were going down left and right in the Super Bowl, and they were just replacing them with new talents on the field there. I don't know if he makes the roster, but the thing is, he gets the opportunity now to fight for that, to be on that roster. And if anything, hopefully, once again, I'll keep saying this, hopefully he can make it to the preseason games and showcase himself. Because I think if anything, he can be a special teams player. If anything, I think he can showcase himself on special teams because he is not afraid to hit. He's not afraid to showcase his quickness. And I think he can make some money at the special teams level, if anything.
No, I totally agree with everything you said, KB. Tatum Bethune, a real hard worker. He was a big asset to Florida State's football teams. 251st overall pick. Doesn't matter what the number is. You got drafted. That's something you can always take. And when you're 65, 70 years old, Tatum Bethune, you'll be able to tell your grandkids about that. The 49ers seem excited to have him on their roster. And I think that, this is a guy that played in 61 games over his college career, 37 starts, a little undersized as a linebacker, but will hit you. Don't let there be any mistake. Will hit you, and he can spy on people. He could be a specialty defensive player when they're playing a more running quarterback to go in on a third down play and help spy on a quarterback to take him out of that so he can run a little bit. So I think the big thing is special teams, and I've said that all evening. A number of Florida State players to make rosters, the active rosters, you're going to have to play some special teams. Tatum Bethune, for him, he's got to make an impression on special teams. And I think they'll work with him as a linebacker, but he can make some impact immediately on the special teams play.
Absolutely. And now that wraps up our draftees. So congrats to all those guys. All
a big honor to them. They've been playing football since they were little kids, and their dreams have come true to be drafted in the NFL.
Yep,
but now it's all locked in. You got to lock in. You can't worry about if you're in New York or LA or be trying to showcase anything. It's going to put who puts in the hard work, who gets opportunities, and who makes the most out of those opportunities. That's how it's going to work, because there are guys trying to take your job, trying to keep jobs. It's a business. Yep. It's a business. College is becoming a business. We know that. Yep. So we go to some other Florida State guys, and one of them was Tatum Bethune's partner there, Deloach. Mm-hmm. He is an undrafted free agent, which we'll talk about now. Yeah. Undrafted free agent at Tampa Bay. So he's going to have an opportunity there, and he'll also, and I'm sure you'll bring it up, he'll also have to make it on special teams there. So a lot of these guys are brought in to play those positions. And they're going to have to accept that role.
Yeah, so let's talk about so we had 5 undrafted folks from Florida State who are eligible or put into the draft there. So one of them, like you said, was Tatum Bethune, was Kalen DeLoach. And so, he lands with Tampa Bay, which great situation for him. He gets to stay in Florida, goes a little bit south. And goes to a team once again is coming off or is trying a sort of a rebuild there, and building.
They made playoffs last year.
I was gonna say, but they want to go a little bit further, and they have a decent defense, right?
They would definitely. Oh yeah, they do. Yeah.
And so they have, he goes into a little bit of a stacked linebacker room there with KJ Britt and Anthony Nelson and co. And so once again, where he's going to make his money and where he's going to make the team is probably going to be on special teams, like you said, because he's kind of that undersized guy. But we know what he can do, right?
And he's a good blitzer. See, if he can play that third down. Go in and rush, put that extra rush on the quarterback. So that's how they're looking at him for sure.
Exactly. Do they see the upside and the ability for him to make plays off the edge there, like you said, and gadget plays and blitz?
Because that's an easy role to put him in. That's right. If they see this guy can rush the quarterback, we'll put him in on third downs. Now, if you're only doing that all the time, then they start to read that when he comes in. But he definitely can do that.
And they also drafted Chris Braswell and brought in Randy Gregory as a free agent. So this is they're looking to rebuild that right linebacking position. So he's going to have an opportunity to compete. and whether it be on special teams or he's showcasing himself. Once again, he's just trying to get through that cut line so he can have an opportunity to showcase himself. He may be on a different team, a couple of months from now, battling in their camp. So, but I do think, he definitely has some potential. And we know he has special ability with his speed to make plays. We saw it all last year. The other guys we're talking about here is Fabian Lovett. I don't think, once again, he's a big body. He can hold the middle. He's just not a guy that can really move his man consistently. I think that was the biggest thing against him.
And he got he was hurt a lot.
Yeah, and he was banged up.
That hurt him.
But I think Kansas City, why they may have taken him is that they've seen a lot of success with Derek Noddy. Another Florida State guy.
Noddy wasn't a superstar at Florida State. Not in my memory. He was a good player, but he wasn't a superstar. He's not a name that just pops out at you, but it pops out because of his play in Kansas City. He's a guy that really developed his game as he went from his senior year at Florida State into the pros.
Yeah, and coached by Odell as well. And so they may say, well, we know how Odell coaches these types of interior
Odell
linemen.
is in the NFL.
Yeah, and how he coaches these interior linemen, and we know what we got in Derek. So, let's take a shot on Fabian and see what he looks like in person and how we can coach him up. So once again, I think it's a great position for Fabian to go to because he can go talk to Derek, and chop it up and see what it's like within in the building. So I think it's a good landing spot for Fabian, but I'm not terribly surprised that he wasn't drafted. But I think once again,
I'm not surprised at all.
I've
said that. I've said that, that I didn't think he'd get drafted. Or if it would, it'd be very low, and he fell below that because his performance and his production has not been high. It's been inconsistent. I think the Kansas City sees potential, but how long will they take to develop it is another question.
And I think for him, it was good because he probably had a couple of offers and he could choose something like Kansas City.
Of course.
Which is potentially the best fit. So good for him. Good luck to him there.
Because as you know, once the draft is over, then all that other stuff goes out to the undrafted players that they're interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. Akeem Dent. A little bit surprised. Akeem Dent he had his best season last year, right? This is a guy that 2 to 3 years prior, I wasn't sure would still be on the roster. He wasn't living up to, I don't think, his potential. And this past season, I think, in my eyes, was his best year, along with all the defensive backs. Like I said, everyone on the defensive backfield kind of locked in, and I think Akeem was one of those guys who really came to play and showed out to what his full potential was. Now, I think too, his 6'1", big safety, or big defensive back. He had 15. He's Florida State's active leader in pass breakups with 15. I think the discredit to him is that he's an older player. NFL likes younger prospects. They're going to bring them in or spend a draft pick on them. I don't know. It seemed like, I know he's not the fastest, most athletic guy.
I don't think it's an age thing. I think it's more of a
we discussed
performance.
This. Age does go into whether some of it. Okay. If he's not the fastest kid, he's an older prospect who has a lot of wear on his body. All those things go into the equation. I'm not saying it's the only thing, but it does play into it because they're not going to draft a guy who's the same age as three other guys on the roster if he's not better than them either. Okay. But it goes into the equation a little bit. But I'm not saying it's the only thing. But I definitely think Akeem is a guy that can make a roster. He's definitely better than some of the guys I think that were drafted ahead of him. Not saying Florida State guys, but I think 6th or 7th round guys. I think he definitely has a more upside than some of the guys I saw drafted ahead of him. So I think once again, it's one of those things where you have to go into camp and work your butt off, and whether it be special teams, whether it be your child,
Akeem would have to make a huge impact on special teams.
Yes.
He's not a starting safety in the NFL. Certainly not at this level.
No, I'm not saying he's going to come and be a starting safety.
No, I didn't say you said that. I'm saying he's not at that ability. So to make the active roster, he's going to have to pop people on the special teams.
But once again, he's going to the Chargers. Derwin James is there. Asante Samuels is there. He's got Florida State guys on the roster, which is great. New coaching staff.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking of what's
new coaching staff. Yeah. Jim Harbaugh's new coach there. Great. So they're looking to redo things, get things.
Yeah.
You can do coaching staff.
Who
He's
can
got
play?
2 Florida State guys there already. I think this is, once again, for an undrafted free agent, this is a place where you want to go. You can talk to
They'll
some
take him
guys
under
that
the
you
wing.
know,
Right.
take you under their wing, get you situated, help
Right.
you out probably more than any other situation. So once again, you got some guys in the defensive backfield. The safety room isn't overly deep right now. They only have four deep on the defensive or on the safety front.
Guys get hurt.
So yeah, so there could be some upside here. Like you said, you're not going to be expected to come in and be a starter or backup. But if guy gets hurt in camp, there could be an opportunity. Just work your butt off, and there could be. But I think it's a good situation for him as an undrafted free agent.
Good.
And then we look at the offensive lineman. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here.
And I tweeted about Florida State offensive linemen.
Yeah, sadly, these guys don't get drafted. They're not signed yet. I don't think it's too surprising. Florida State hasn't had a lineman drafted in I don't know in the last time.
I can't even remember the last time that Florida State had a offensive lineman drafted in the first 5 rounds. I can't even remember. I'm sure there is some. There are. There's no doubt there are. Maybe Rodney Hudson. I'm guessing. But I did put out a tweet. Whether you agree, I never sign your name to anything I put out. I sign my name. I'm concerned that going into the 24 season for Florida State is, can they keep DJU, our new quarterback, standing upright long enough for him to distribute the football around? Can we do that? We've got a ton of guys in the offensive line room, but we're not producing elite linemen. How much now does this start to fall on Coach Atkins, who's gotten a lot of hugs and kisses, but he's not putting anybody out of the system?
So the last
into the NFL.
The last O lineman we had drafted was in 2018, who was Rick Leonard.
Wow. And Rick Leonard was not in the NFL very long.
I don't know where he.
No, that was, oh God.
And then
That's
before
horrible.
that, the year before, we had Roderick Johnson.
Johnson did play some in the NFL. I know that, but Rick Leonard, he wasn't around long. Yes. I mean, we have not a good history of O linemen going in and being successful at the NFL level in a long time.
No, and to your point, this does fall on the championship from the championship class. With Jameis Winston, the 2015 draft, you did have, I think, a couple. You had Trey Jackson. I think he had a couple years. Cameron Irving,
Cameron Irving played a long time. He played a lot of ball.
I think Trey Jackson played with the New England Patriots for
Rodney Hudson is also a name that's stuck around the NFL.
Rodney Hudson. So Brian Stork played with the Patriots for a couple seasons before he got hurt. He won the championship with them. So during your best years, when you won a championship, Menelik Watson wins. Zebra Sanders.
But you get my point.
No, when you're playing well, and you mentioned Rodney Hudson, he was 2011. So like when you were playing really well, you were getting a couple offensive linemen drafted per year.
But you would have thought after a 13-0 season, we'd have one offensive lineman drafted out of all the rounds.
Yeah,
out of all the rounds.
And I don't see a top 3 round, 4 rounds offensive lineman next year.
I don't either.
And so
I saw one Twitter guy, one FSU Twitter guy. I'm not going to get into names, but a younger Twitter guy who says, "Oh, will Byers be like a top four round draft choice next year?" What?
What? No.
It's like crazy.
Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I don't see anyone.
I don't see it. No, we're just from a fan perspective, KB. We're not experts. We don't do this 24/7. I don't see guys on FSU's offensive line roster for 24 that, to me, are elite NFL type players.
No,
I'm talking about offensive linemen.
Offensive linemen, and this eventually, I don't know. And
I wish I did.
This needs to go back, and nobody, and I don't think Odell gets a lot of heat. He got a lot of heat, and I was a part of that. He puts guys in the NFL. He put Brandon Fisk and he put Jared Verse in the NFL, and he he put Jermaine Johnson in the NFL, and he put Denarius Robinson and Joshua Kando in the NFL. So Odell gets a lot of shit sometimes, whether it be for his recruiting in high school, but he puts guys in the NFL.
And Coach John Papukas.
Okay.
He's the DN coach.
Good.
So
yes, they put guys in the NFL. But, even Randy Shannon gets shit, but he just put a guy in the NFL too.
He did. He put 2 guys in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, he put one. There's only one line.
No, undrafted. Oh, I'm talking about the undrafted.
I'm talking about drafted though. But
well, right now, 2 of our offensive linemen can't even go in undrafted.
But that's what I'm saying.
They haven't signed. They'll probably sign.
Atkins needs to start getting some fire for not getting. He's not developing guys. He almost
had one, Mims. He almost had a first rounder, Mims, but that blew up in his face.
He's not getting the pressure that all the other coaching staff guys get.
I don't know
why it is. And the other reason, and the thing is, and he even said this in one of the articles that I saw he was quoted as, is that he inherited most of the guys that are on the line now. A lot of the players that are on the line now, he inherited a lot of those players, the stalwarts of the line who haven't been transfers.
But what does that mean?
Is that the recruits that he's bringing in aren't playing?
They're not playing.
And so
who's the guy everybody loves? Amela. How many years does Amela have to develop? Amela's the next hot offensive lineman. I'm not hearing anything in the spring about him.
Maurice Smith has been here forever. He inherited him. Darius Washington inherited him. And these guys had been here for Robert Scott. Been here forever.
All nice kids.
I'm not saying against. I'm saying against Atkins. I'm saying these guys. He even says it. Those 3 guys have been here almost 4 or 5 years. It seems like he inherited those offensive linemen. He hasn't, and the other guys he's just filled with transfers. He's been here for 4 years now, 5 years now. Where are the recruits that he's brought in that should have been developed by now for 2, 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah.
Why aren't they playing? Or aren't they competing for slots?
All we hear is the guy 6'6", weighs 320, and there's a lot of big guys out there. Doesn't mean they can play.
He's relied on guys like Scott and Smith and Darius Washington for 4 years now. At some point, these recruits have to show up, and they have to.
Well, I think this year is going to be very interesting.
Because we used to say, what would happen if Atkins left? But, I don't know. Because it's, and I do give him credit. He's worked the portal decently in terms of, the line hasn't gotten worse, but it hasn't,
But it's not elite.
It hasn't gotten to elite status. And I think if we want to continue to compete for ACC championships or national championships, this line has to get better. It can't just stay the same. It has to get better. It has to become elite. It has to look like the Michigans. It has to look like, what consistently these top tier programs do, Georgia's do. You have to be a line that moves people forward consistently, not every 3, 4, 5 plays like Florida State does. Sometimes they look like, damn, I didn't expect that. The other times it looks like they just get beat on a certain side. So it's about consistency, and that's what I mean. What an elite line looks like. It's every damn down you look like it, not just every so often. And so I think that's when you have there's stars across the board where you're sending 2 or 3 guys to the draft, every draft. And I'm not saying every O lineman's going to get drafted. That's tough to do, but we should be sending 1 or 2 guys to the draft after every certain class.
Oh, absolutely,
and not 0 after. Like I said, it's been 5. It's been 7 years since we sent someone to the draft. And that's not all in Atkins, but the last 4 or 5, 4 years, we haven't sent the guy close. Yeah. None of these guys are close. So we have to get better. We can't just stay the same. And so I think that pressure has to get to him starting this year. I mean, we have to start seeing some of these recruits in it. So yeah, but once again, I don't want to take it down. This was a great sign because look at the last 2 years.
Oh yeah,
2 players the previous 2 years drafted.
Yeah. This is a big weekend, draft weekend for Florida State and the program and its upswing, and it's a great marketing recruiting tool, as you said.
You talked about a sign of hit rates on guys development. 0-star out of high school, 0-star unrated,
right?
3-star guy, 3-star guy. 3-star guy. You talk about development and finding the right guys out of the portal here. That's what you want to come be developed. You want to come get to your highest potential. You want to go and get to the next level. This is what I would show guys is, if you think you're under recruited, underdeveloped, or you want to get to the next level, you want to be found. This is you come here.
Let's go to Mark Dorfman here for Lucas Simmons, who is a true freshman, I guess. He is green, but a stud. Mark, what the hell does that mean? A stud of what? Because he played, at some academy. I mean, he's a big dude. I get it. And this is no disrespect. But what does that mean? He's a stud. Amela is supposedly a stud. And he's been in the system at least a couple of seasons for sure. So I'm not sure if you want to clarify, what does that mean? Is a stud just a big ass guy? He's a big dude. Can he play? That's the key, I think. And I know he's young. We don't know what he can bring yet. But KB, any comment on what Mark's asking here?
No, I want to judge performance. I want to see guys play. I know they brought in Lucas Simmons, who's highly recruited. Jonathan Daniels is highly recruited. Those guys, I don't expect them to play right away. Those are true freshmen. Those guys shouldn't be playing right away unless
I'm wondering if they're highly recruited because they're big physical specimens who have proven they can take a smaller guy off some high school team and push him around on the field, and that's the highlights you should see. And I've seen a lot of those highlights. Then push one guy.
Lucas Simmons should be. He's going into his sophomore year. He redshirted last year. He should be getting close to. He was a high 4-star guy, top 150, top 10 in his position level. He should be looking his second year in the program.
Is he better? Is he more of a stud than Mala right now?
I would have to.
What happened? Is he dropped off the radar now?
No, that's the thing. I don't know.
Who are the guys in the offensive line room that should be
those two
studs coming up?
Those two are the top rated guys that they've recruited the last 3 cycles.
Lucas Simmons
and Julian Armella.
And then
Jalen Early. And those three.
Because you see it
but those guys
and Andre Otto. People like Otto. I keep hearing his name. He's a stud. Everybody's a stud.
He was raw though. But those 3, Jalen Early.
All right. You know me. I'm always the negative guy on offensive line because I think that's the game. Florida State has a lot of potential playmakers, but if the quarterback's not standing up, if holes aren't open, then these playmakers don't mean anything. So hopefully I'm wrong.
No, I just want to see these guys in meaningful minutes. Last year, all these guys we saw Hakeem Williams, Blake Nicholson, Conrad Hussey. We saw a lot. Jaden Jones. We saw a lot of these guys have to play meaningful minutes last year. But these offensive linemen that we've recruited the last 3 years, haven't been competing. It doesn't seem like in positions of need. This offensive line isn't at an elite level where we can rely on transfers every year or these guys who have been here 5 seasons. Like. That's what makes me think that these guys aren't ready to play is because they're not being slotted into the starting line. It's that they're either not ready to play yet or Atkins doesn't think they're good enough. They're better than what's already here.
Well, they haven't beat out the guys that are here.
They're either not fully developed yet or they're just not good enough.
Well, here's the question, and then we can wrap this up because we're getting a little off topic here. But here's the bottom line. Is this offensive line good enough to carry this 24 team to an ACC championship and an automatic bid to the playoffs?
It didn't have to.
We're going to find out.
It didn't have to last year.
No, I know.
The defense did.
I know. I know. I understand.
If it plays the same, it'll be the same as last year.
But you can't depend on that. You got to you're off. We both know the line, the interior line, DL and the OL are keys to be a very good football team. And
your defensive line will do a lot for you.
I feel a lot better with the defensive line we're going to carry into the season versus the O line. So we'll find out.
Yeah, I think our offensive line will be the same as it was last year.
Pretty much. I think
I'm not
expecting.
Pretty much. I don't think people should expect it to be, the top 5 in the NCAA.
Well, it'll be.
Nothing's changed. Nothing's really changed. She brought in some more bodies, but
Well, you start to rate your offensive line as you get 2-3 games deep into a season,
3 or 4
against quality opponents, and then you can look at certain stats in those quality opponents, break those games down, and you'll start to see how good that offensive line is. The stats they get against some third-tier team means nothing. It's against the big boys. When you play the big boys, what do those stats look like?
Yeah.
And I'm hard on the offensive line. I have been hard on the offensive line. I admit it. Prove me wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really do.
I would love to be wrong, and I would love to see these guys like Lucas Simmons, like Jalen Earl. I would love to see them push some of these transfers for starting playing time. And if
Dorfman says Simmons has stood out in practice. That's why
I would love to see that, because I would love these young guys to start playing and play for the next 3 years, so then you can start using those transfer portal slots for more skill positions or more other positions outside the offensive line, and then you just start creating that pipeline for high school for the offensive line and not have to rely on the transfer portal, because I think it's risky. You can use that more for spot positions, but that's going to do it. So once again, great weekend for the NFL draft for the Florida State. Great mark of what this program has become now. And once again, I expect it to continue like this for Florida State and what they're building, because it just shows the health of this program and what Mike Norvell and the staff and everyone around it has built. So huge congrats to them. And
I think the next big thing coming up, KB, tell me if I'm wrong, in the next week or two, when's the transfer window stop now in the spring?
I think a couple of days. It was 9 days since when we last spoke.
Florida State hasn't brought anybody in yet.
They can't. They have to get below the limit.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
And
I haven't seen any guys other than what we've already talked about, guys leaving the other shows when we talked about it. I haven't seen anybody else pull the plug. So they might not be able to bring anybody in the spring, correct?
Yeah, so the portal closes on May 1st. So we have 3 more days? 3 more days till it closes. So and I'm not quite sure what they have to be close to the scholarship limit. So there may be another couple of guys here. I was trying to look up what we were at limit wise, but they don't obviously publish that.
No, it's
difficult. I think we're close. You may see a couple more guys here, but if we were to stay, I like where our roster is at right now. So I'm not pushing for us to get any more guys, but I think we already discussed the positions. If we were to get a few more guys here and there at certain roles, we would be.
If you could pick one guy to bring in, you get one shot to bring one guy in. What position group would it be? You get one shot.
Receiver.
I say linebacker. I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned there.
Receiver, linebacker. Receiver, linebacker. I just think, linebacker is just very young and inexperienced. But receiver, I think, I'd probably go linebacker and hope that the receiver room matures. And
it's going to be fun moving forward. There's a lot of moving parts. We got court lawsuits. We got a very crappy basketball program. We've got a portal. And you know what? Before we know it, it's going to be August and football is going to be underway. Well, obviously, we're going to be watching how the Noles do and their new teams in the NFL. We're in the minor leagues here. It's called Florida State Minor League for the NFL, and it's exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I will say this again. Florida State will exit the ACC. It's going to be a settlement out of court, and it's going to be how much is going to have to be paid. That's where we are. We have not gotten to discovery yet. There's still delays going on and motions. It's boring as hell, but that's where we're at. Nobody wants to get to the discovery phase. I believe a settlement will come together before the discovery phase. And now the Attorney General of the state of Florida, she has filed a lawsuit against the ACC. She wants to have the grant of rights totally transparent. So that's gone into court. So that puts even more pressure to get a settlement done out of court. And that's generally how these things go. But beyond that, there's a lot going on. We enjoy being here. I enjoy being here.
Yep. Well, thank you all for the comments and the thoughts. We always appreciate, whether we agree or disagree. It's always good to have the conversation. And we will be back with our next show. We'll determine what the topic is. Obviously,
well, I've been pushing KB. about basketball. We know basketball is not a big deal at Florida State. In fact, it's not even a deal anymore. It's terrible. It's the worst program. It's the worst.
I hate talking about something that obviously the administration at Florida State doesn't care about. So that's the thing.
And you think the fans don't care about it, and they probably don't.
I enjoy basketball, but the administration at Florida State obviously doesn't care about it.
But we need to talk about it at some point.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that can be our next show, but nobody's going to care about it. So,
okay, that's all right.
But yeah, we will have our next show soon enough. We thank you all for your comments and questions, whether you're watching live or later on. Let us know in the comments whether you agree with all our picks and all our comments
or not.
But thank you all. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy your upcoming week. And take it easy. Be safe. And we will speak with you soon. Have a great one, guys and gals. And we will talk to you soon. Go Noles.
Go Noles.
Congrats everyone again on being drafted and being signed. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.